to the channel Based in Reality. Tonight I want to do a brief piece on what is going on with cows in Denmark and how does this affect Nevadans? How does this affect Americans? It affects us because we have climate scientists who connect methane gas, which is a natural byproduct of eating food for a cow. It's a natural byproduct of eating grass, and it causes the cow to emit or burp methane. Well, for many, many, many years, we've had climate scientists say that when measured, cows emitting methane create a larger carbon footprint. In other words, the emission of that carbon into our atmosphere increases our planet's temperature, which causes all kinds of chaos. So, interestingly, earlier this month, the tech mogul Bill Gates issued a statement which said that there should no longer be, and I'm going to paraphrase his statement, an emphasis upon using resources to mitigate global temperature. Instead, we should pivot our interest into improving the lives of human beings. Okay, so I have just synopsized his November 2025 statement. Now, this was regarding climate crisis. Okay, and he was saying, the global response to climate change really needs to pivot. Now, this created a bit of controversy, okay? And who made a response to that? Well, I'll tell you who. An organization called, if I can bring it up, it's a consortium of climate scientists who put on a large conference called COP30, and this organization is called Global Climate and Health Alliance. And I'm going to just give you a quote. They say, and this is about the Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica. This article says, and this is from this month, it says, this hurricane occurred at current levels of global warming. Emissions are still climbing. Fossil fuel production is still expanding, and fossil fuels are still being subsidized by taxpayers. Health professionals, leaders, health workers around the world are on the front lines of the climate crisis, and we strive to respond to what is now a rapidly accelerating threat. We cannot heal people when the systems meant to protect them are collapsing all around us. Okay, the contact for that article is David Walsh, communications advisor of the organization, and his phone number and email is listed, and I'll link that down below in the description box. The point is, Bill Gates is making the comment that we need to shift our focus from emission mitigation measures, policies, government mandates when it comes to using farming additives, and so forth, because there's a whole universe when it comes to climate change theory, climate crisis theory. Now, Bill Gates, who has been in the forefront of this climate talk for years and years, has changed, when we get new information over time, sometimes we do shift our priorities, or our understanding of things shifts. And he is saying the crisis is not so imminent, it is not so dangerous and in our face, that we should prioritize that over just helping people, okay? So, a case in point could be Hurricane Melissa, okay? The climate scientists have been saying for years that cows burping have a direct connection to how hot our planet gets, okay? And in this article that I just read you, it did mention Hurricane Melissa and the Jamaican catastrophe there. Hurricane level 5 can't get no higher than a level 5. So they want to connect cows burping with 300-mile winds. They make a causative connection, a correlation between a rising of a temperature all across the planet and a hurricane going from, say, let's say a level 3, it might normally be a level 3. In fact, Jamaica had a hurricane last year in 2024, but this one got up to, it hovered between a 4 and a 5. If we didn't have cows eating grass and emanating methane, it would lower the ocean temperature, which made such a hot and heavy hurricane. So, this is potentially a talking point for future conferences. Maybe this will affect the thought circles in the climatology ecosystem, as it were. But let's get down to brass tacks about this product that is being floated as a bold climate solution. Okay, when I looked it up using a artificial intelligence search engine assist, it said that this product that is being used in Denmark right now, mandated by the government, the product is called Bovaer. It is made by a corporation called DSM Pharmanek. It is marketed as a bold climate solution. On October 1st of this year, 2025, the government of Denmark mandated that dairy farmers, working with cattle for dairy products and beef, would begin dosing their cattle with Bovaer. Now, the key ingredient in Bovaer is a acid-reducing synthetic enzyme. It's supposed to affect the first stomach of a cow to reduce the acids in there to minimize the amount of methane being excreted, burped out by the animal to around 30%. It's quite a big number. So apparently it was just fine and safe in the lab trials. However, when it was introduced in the UK to a large number of dairy farms in the UK, cows got sick. Cows couldn't produce as much milk. So now the UK, coming out of that trial, is saying, wait a minute, hold up. And they are revisiting whether or not they're going to incorporate Bovaer as a government-mandated feed additive, telling the farmers that they must feed their cattle this, right? Because of such poor results in the trial. Here we are today. Dosing began in October in Denmark, and the exact same result is happening. One group of approximately 100 dairy cows, which began its dosage regimen on October 1st, reached a 36 cow down cow, where the cows literally can't stand on their feet. That happened, but initially 36 cows just became ill and stopped being able to be milked at their heretofore levels. Okay, so they were down 5 kilograms per cow, meaning the reduction was significant in how much milk they could produce once the dosing of Bovaer began. Within a matter of days, once the cows reached the full dosage of Bovaer, they went from 36 cows being affected to 70 cows on a Friday that were ill. That was Friday morning. There were 70 cows. By Saturday morning, there were 90 cows. And so the cows ended up being treated with medicine and also vitamin supplements, okay, to save the lives of the cows, because they were in danger of dying. So really, Bovaer looks like a poison. Looks like a poison to me. You have perfectly fine cows, and then you introduce this new item that is supposedly safe, and the cows stop producing milk to their normal levels. They get so sick that they cannot stand. They have to be pulled from the herd, put into like a medicine pen, and be treated. But some cows have died, as I understand it. So Denmark wanted to introduce very stiff monetary fines to farmers who would not use this product. So let's just add this up. Let's add up 1 and 1 and 1, shall we? The corporation says that its lab results proved that Bovaer was safe. Number 2, the government signs approval on the use of Bovaer and mandates it. That's key. They mandate it to the farmers. Now this ensures mighty profits. This is a guaranteed win for DSM Pharmanek. The government says it must be used. Here goes their stock price. They're making profits, and perhaps the government enjoys some benefit financially from this partnership, from this clear agreement to work together. But what ends up happening is a complete backfire, and we find that Bovaer is actually a poison making the cows ill. So, I just want us to think smart and act accordingly, like I say in my videos, and be in reality. Let's research these corporations that want to force their product to the market and have a guaranteed customer. In this case, it's farming. And the government signs on to the tune of fines coming in to the government if the product is not used. This looks like a very problematic equation to me. I do want to add that Bill Gates is in the business now of creating his own synthetic product. It would be a competitor to Bovaer. His product is called Ruminate because it's fed to ruminants. Ruminants are animals like cows, oryx, bison, deer, and these are animals that eat grass, okay? They eat berries and whatnot, and they're in the human, food chain, okay? But they will, as all animals, okay, most animals, will emit methane. So Bill Gates is making ruminate, which is a synthetic form of seaweed, because seaweed apparently is methane reducing. Then why not just harvest seaweed? Instead, we're going to use chemistry to replicate the components of seaweed, which reduce methane. But it's not seaweed. It's not nature. It's not natural born like these vitamin supplements were that helped revive these cows and save the lives of these cows, right? In that cocktail of medicine and vitamins to rescue these cows that were hit by Bovaer. So Bill Gates is doing his mass experimentation and trials in Australia, where there is quite a bit of cattle, right? What will happen if Bill Gates' company says, ruminate is all good, let's mandate that the cattle farmers use it in Australia, and then we'll push it to Europe, push it around the world? Massive profits. So we need to really look at Bovaer as a huge and important example and guardrail, okay? This needs to be the big, huge warning to our farmers, okay, across the world, that just because a company says that their tests were beautiful in the lab, when this is introduced out in the real world with cows dealing with sun fatigue, weather, maybe random viruses that can hit the stable and get cows sick. In the real world, obviously Bovaer has not done well, has not fared well for these cows. And it's actually reduced their productivity, even though it's marketed as ensuring and possibly boosting productivity, meaning boosting the amount of milk. Okay, that's not happening. So we need to make sure that any kind of supplement that's given to our animals, which is then going to go into our bodies naturally, logically, it will enter us, has to be beyond beyond the pale, not beyond the pale, but beyond a shadow of a doubt, safe. And the more natural a product is, the better. I think we can all agree that the more natural a product is, more nature-based, the better, because it is going to go into our nature. Okay, have we learned anything from Roundup and the massive class action lawsuit? All the cancer that has been occurring for farmers and people directly touching Roundup. Well, if you read the directions of usage for Bovaer, it's a similar situation where the farmers have to wear gloves to handle the product. They say that there is illness associated with the product not being used correctly. So there's just a lot to really be careful for here. And that is what I want to leave you with tonight, that we really need to have our ears opened and pricked regarding anything having to do with farming, because that's our future. Okay, farming is our future. We need to care for our farmers. And I did do a previous video on the fact that we are losing farmland in the United States, that we have China buying up a lot of our farmland for God knows what reason. And we also have Bill Gates, who has purchased a lot of prime soil, excellent farmland in our country. Maybe he plans on putting a lot of cows on that land and selling ruminant here in the U.S. I don't know. But what I do know is I believe that U.S. citizens should be operating and owning U.S. farmland, period. That no country should be allowed to purchase our farmland. I don't believe any country should be allowed to purchase any of our land. I don't care if it's just to put a cabin on it. Other countries do not allow foreigners to own pieces of their country. You could rent space in their country, and I think that we should adopt similar rules of engagement here. America is for Americans, not for people that live in a communist country such as China, or anyone else for that matter, whether their country is communist or not, but certainly not a communist country. So that's what I leave you with tonight. I hope everybody is having a good week. Let's think smart and act accordingly. And I look forward to seeing you guys on another episode of Based in Reality. Take care.